So in terms of social and emotional learning in the classroom, what are you doing then in the classroom in terms of trying to address social and emotional in the classroom?
For us right now, we're looking at the Choose Love curriculum. We have not implemented that yet. We are looking at that. We just had Shannon and Scarlett come and present to our district. We're looking to do that next year. We haven't done that yet, but I just want to be clear that the MOUs you're referring to are not related to social and emotional learning. Those are related to high fidelity wraparound only.
Shannon, do you want to talk a little bit about what Choose Love looks like in the classroom?
So the Choose Love curriculum is a program that was born after the Sandy Hook school shooting tragedy. Scarlett Lewis is the mom of Jesse Lewis, who was killed in his first grade classroom. She has taken her tragedy and turned this into something truly to help the world around her. The program, the Choose Love program, is designed by educators for ease of implementation into the classroom. As of last week, 201 New Hampshire schools have downloaded the program, with the potential of reaching, I think the number was 67,000 plus students. That does not mean that every district like yours is currently actively doing it, but it's been downloaded and it's being looked at. It's designed for ease of implementation. Some districts, the teachers are doing it. Some districts, school counselors have the opportunity to go into every classroom in a week and they're doing it. We also have a home program and a community-based program. So some communities like Interlakes, that's spreading community-wide. And of course, the home program, a lot of families are loving as well. It's pre-K through grade 12, plus we have infant and toddler coming out. We also, as I said, have community and home and a workforce is coming out, because I think we can use it as well. Depending on the grade level, like when you get to high school, it might be designed to do once a week an advisory course class. Every school is finding their way to see what works best for them.
And it's just a plug for the website. It's a really great, really easy to use website, and it's a free curriculum, so you can go on and download it at whatever age level.
Laconia was one of the original pilots, along with Concord and Rochester. Mm-hmm. And Merrimack is a great example, so I'm glad they're right here, because they were not, and they are a district, it sounds similar to what you're referring to as your home district, where they were not a part of these initial federally funded sort of opportunities that we have that we leveraged in the state. However, we've been working with Merrimack for a few years now. It's not always about the money, it's about the relationships that the schools have. And so we work together as schools so that we are ensuring that whatever district that you're in, whatever work we are doing, we share it outright with you. So I've handed over so much of my stuff to them as an example that we did in conjunction with the department and with Concord and with Rochester. And there's 7 other districts. They're all over the state, and so we share all of our stuff. The toolkit that they've developed, that's a really good example of how we're doing that so that we can put it out there for everyone. I often get calls from schools as well who say, how did you do this? Who can you connect me with? And we just put it all out there.
I think it's all about what Kelly, you mentioned at the beginning, is about what is best for the local communities.
Right.
And so when we started our work 4 years ago, there has been a great need for social and emotional learning and skill instruction. And again, based on the research that you mentioned, Kelly, and based on what we're hearing for skills for kids coming out of high school, being college and career ready. We just didn't at the time. Again, it's all part of being in a system, and then with full school board approval, we said we wanted to take the time to study what is appropriate for our district, what makes sense. And so it is now in year 3 that we're evaluating 2 social and emotional curriculums. They're not Choose Love. This has been work that we've been doing for a while, although I'm not saying yes or no to Choose Love. One of our programs is Second Step, and that is something that we've used at one of our schools in the district for several years. And the other is PASS. They're both CASEL certified, research-based, and they're Tier 1 instructions. Just like with reading, writing, and math, you have to do your diligence. You have to make sure there's research to it. We have to evaluate it, and we approach this as no other different than when we did our math and visions pilot 2 years ago. And it's very similar. And so we've done very much a systematic approach involving families involved in school board, and also going and talking to other districts. The 2 that are being evaluated right now, we will make a recommendation to the school board, to our community. And again, this is all what we've done along the 4 years to say this is something we like to implement K through 5 at this time. And again, I think in partnership with other school districts and talking with other school districts, you learn a lot. We've had a number of school districts that have come to us because the key component of this is taught by the teachers. It's not mental health treatment. It's about decision-making skills. It's about problem-solving skills. Again, the skills that our business community is telling us our kids need. And so that is something that we have an approach that we have taken. It has been slow, it has been systematic, it has been very purposeful, and it's been no different than how we would approach learning for our academics in reading, writing, and math. And like I said, I've had other districts come. It's our classroom teachers that are part of it who are teaching this, and we've had overwhelming support from our parent community.
Our team is a little large, it feels. We have juvenile justice, DCYF, police department, Head Start, our family resource center, our mental health center. We have a variety of parents on there, a variety of district personnel from across all of our buildings and the SAU office. New Beginnings, which in Laconia is, it's really all around prevention efforts and sexual violence. And so they're at the table, partnership with public health, LRGH. Back in 2013, that team was developed. And it has absolutely changed over time, meaning and the slide that she had with the needs assessment environmental scan, they all did that with us. So they put hours and hours of their time into this work with us to really look at what do we have in our community, what do we need, meaning where do we want to be, what's the difference, how do we get there, kind of thing. And so over time we've added members to that team. It feels a little heavy right now, so I was kind of joking that it's a large team, but their voices matter and they're so invested in this work because many of the decisions that we've made that had financial ramifications for our district, they had decision-making power in.
I'm just curious, the driver. You had mentioned there's a grant and to your superintendent, like where does this come from? Like how does a district begin this process and where?
Just offered that I appreciate the phrase boots on the ground because it was several years ago that we began to notice behaviors of students at younger and younger grades that were increasingly dramatic. There were lots of incidents where police would sometimes need to be called to the school to deal with students who have really very challenging behaviors that hadn't happened before. Those are the realities sometimes in a public school. And so we wondered initially, was that just a particularly difficult year, or was this a trend? And we began to wonder whether or not we were actually seeing a trend of increasing behaviors at younger and younger grades, and what might be something that could be done to address that. And so when you talk about driver, there were a number of factors, but that one, I think, was something that was something that we noticed from our data, and that was just real. That was just actually happening in our schools, and rather than just say, okay, well, so there it is, we'll just deal with it, we really thought these are opportunities for these students that are missed because they're ready, they weren't hungry in the sense, we used to talk about readiness to learn as when you had an empty stomach, or maybe you didn't have a good night's sleep. And so these are students whose readiness to learn is compromised by some kinds of behaviors that were preventing them from accessing their education. We didn't know why, and I don't know that we really still fully do, but it was a factor that we were observing. And so I just would add that I think that was one of the key drivers that caused us to try to investigate what might it be that we could do to help students manage their own behaviors in a way that they could still access their learning.
But essentially it came from, you or the superintendent.
No,
right?
it was a team. It was a team decision, to begin to investigate. We were getting a lot of, as I said, a lot of data, and then a team of people gathered to look at this and say, what does this mean? And it was that team that began to conclude that we needed to do a little bit more investigation.
So when we apply for grants, as an example, it's not because we see, ooh, there's money there, we want that. We're looking for something to support a need that has been identified, whether it's specific to one of our school buildings, whether it's specific to district-wide, to the community. Many of them require us to partner, which is what we're looking for with our community partners. It enables us to bring them to the table with us. So we're applying for grants that we see can help us get to where we want to be. The ultimate goal is for students to learn, to get their brain in the right place for academic learning. And it's not just social and emotional, physical health, nutrition, all of those things are equally valuable. So we're looking at all of those things that we need to have in place for our students versus what's happening, and what don't we have that we feel like we need that could help us set them up for the most success in their life. So does that make sense?
I think one final sort of point to that to explain sort of the globalness of it. In Laconia, they talk about success for every student, every day, every way. And so it's not like we said, oh, there's a grant, let's get the grant, then let's make our mission what we're going for. It's, this is what we're driven to do, help every kid, every way, no matter what their needs happen to be. And this is just one of the tools that we use to do that.
Like small example, we have a McKinney-Vento sub-grant. That came out of the need that our homeless population continues to increase every year. So it's a very specific community-based need that we have. But as a district, we don't have the financial resources to do everything that we feel like we should be doing to support those students and their families. So that's another small example. I know it's not what we're talking about, but it all goes hand in hand.
And so much of this is about relationship. We talked about relationships, and we talked about, I think one of the factors you talked about earlier, Kelly, was really around how that one connection and that relationship. But what this has done for us is really over the course of the last 5 years now, Julia and I, is allowed us to go knock on doors. And really, when we would have had those partners in those different positions and the mental health providers, the people in our area, the counselors in our area, things like that, it's allowed us to say we have a collective issue to address here. It's not about just the Merrimack school districts, it's about math or about reading or about our language scores, whatever they may be. If we don't wrap together and we stop saying not my job, not my job, not my job, if we say our job together collectively, that's when the growth has started to happen and we've seen some change. And that's the only time that we've seen that cohesiveness start to happen between us and the community. And the driver was, as Mark said, some of the things we're looking at that were more increasingly out of the normal of some behaviors and some other things that were happening, some more needs, some more hospitalizations at the higher level, some things we're seeing that like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And let's get ahead of this and find a proactive measure, as we talked about social emotional curriculums, to bring us forward to try to help our kids and help our families and our community around us.